reportedly worth up to $195 million coming off of a career year for Jason Tatum. He's not the only one, though. Donovan Mitchell with the Utah Jazz. He reportedly agrees to sign a 5-year, $195 million designated rookie max with the Utah Jazz. If you're on social media, you saw him celebrate. And of course, Bogdanović signs an offer sheet with the Hawks. This is a 4-year, $72 million deal. Reportedly, he will be leaving Sacramento if this goes through. And here's the big one. The big fella, Marc Gasol, agrees to a 2-year deal with the Lakers. It'll be the third team for the 3-time All-Star. Hey there, everybody. I'm Stephanie Reddy, and welcome to this free agent edition of Game Time. I'm joined by Steve Smith, All-Star champion, gold medalist, and Tom Penn, former NBA executive. Gentlemen, we'll get to you shortly, but we want to get right to Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum has secured the bag, as the young fellas like to say. He had a terrific season, career highs, as I mentioned, with points and rebounds coming off of 23 points and 7 boards is what he's averaging. Everyone knew the ceiling was high for Jason Tatum. You can see the 5-year extension. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? We'll hear from you guys, of course, as we see what's happening with the Boston Celtics. Are they back in the hunt? Reported free agent additions by the Boston Celtics. Tristan Thompson, 2 years, $19 million. And of course, Jeff Teague with a 1-year deal. It changes what these Boston Celtics look like as we welcome in the gentlemen. Steve Smith, let's start with you. The Celtics, do you like the way they're looking now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you start off with Jason Tatum. You said it, Steph. When you start to look at his numbers last year during the regular season, obviously it was abrupted, but I would look at 23 points and career highs. But for me, I always measure guys by playoff basketball. And I looked and watched him in a bubble, 25, 10, and 5, and he's 22 years old. So you're looking about a guy that's ready to play now, be the number one option, all-star, but then also still has a tremendous upside. I think Danny Ainge and those guys, they have a gem in Jason Tatum.
Tom, you hear 22 years and you kind of take a double take because you forget how young Jason Tatum is because his game has grown so much, right? So what do you think? Are they a title contender now?
They're still in the mix. Smitty knows better than anybody. You're only as great as your greatest players, and he's their greatest player. Jaylen Brown right there with him. They've committed full max money to both those guys. They're clear franchise pillars at the moment, and we see how they now evolve. And when the thing I like is how pressure-packed each of them has been in the playoffs. They came up short in the bubble. We all know that. But they burst on the scene as a dynamic duo ahead of their time. Now they hit their prime. And what's interesting to me is Tristan Thompson added as a major role-playing, rebounding, dependable big man. You bring Teague as a veteran. And Smitty, I like who they added on draft day. The shooting of Nesmith, the best shooter in the draft. And then Peyton Pritchard, he's just going to come in there and he's a Danny Ainge type player. I can tell you that. He'll make some noise. So I like the Celtics overall.
I love it. The Danny Ainge reference for all the young people out there. Check it out. Get some video and you'll know exactly what Tom is talking about. A Danny Ainge type player. All right, let's move on to Donovan Mitchell with the Utah Jazz. As we mentioned, he also reportedly is going to be signing a max deal. Donovan Mitchell had an explosive offensive output inside the bubble, especially for the playoffs. Also coming off of career highs for points, assists, and rebounds, Donovan Mitchell is. He had 50 or more points twice just in the playoffs, guys. Donovan Mitchell, the explosiveness of his game went to a whole nother level. And here's the proof. Performance when it counts. He came out to play in the playoffs. You take a look at that left-hand column. That's the regular season numbers for Spider Mitchell. Playoffs on the right, and you can see a leap. It's not just the points. It's every single statistical category across the board. Donovan Mitchell showed up and showed out. Steve Smith, what are your thoughts on this reported deal for Mitchell?
You know, Tom Penn has been in this situation signing players. If I was the Utah Jazz, I would have signed him right after the bubble. I mean, there's no way. I mean, I know it might have been illegal, but I'd have had that contract slid under his door just like a hotel bill. Hey, Donovan, can you get this done right now? Because we all understand his play, but what I love about is he's just as fabulous as a young man, and how he plays extremely hard. We've been looking at saying, what is Donovan Mitchell, as you want to nitpick? Is he a 1? Is he a 2? He is a basketball player, and you saw that right column. Those numbers, they don't look real to me, Steph, when you start talking about playing in playoff basketball, shooting 50-50, and you talk about 36 points. And he's still young. He is extremely one of those guys that can take and absorb contact, can lead a team, can play 40 minutes. I'm just looking for the Utah Jazz to get some help around him.
It should be exciting. In that social media celebration, we saw him jumping in the pool. I don't blame him. I don't know what I would have done if I would have signed a deal that big. Tom Penn, your thoughts on Mitchell and what he brings to the table for this Utah Jazz franchise?
He's a superstar. He's a superstar in Utah. Not only that production, but the way he does it. It's perfectly built for today's game. Spread that floor and let him go to work. He can blow by anybody. They can't put their hands on him. And an explosive finisher, a clutch performer, and the character Smitty mentioned, just exactly what you want in Utah to build around. So you got Gobert down in the middle, and then here comes some, reinforcements. Derek Favors coming back, and then playing a little defense, maintaining Jordan Clarkson. That was really their top priority, their top signing. So when you look right down that roster, what you see is a very similar team from the year prior. Add Favors' size, and then add another year of experience. They were right there in the mix, and the way the season got all jacked up with Rudy Gobert and his role in the shutdown, and it was very disruptive. It had to be very difficult. I think they're right there. They're in the Western Conference mix as is, and they've got great management. And, another new addition, a brand new owner in Ryan Smith, local, on the rise, diehard Jazz fan his whole life. Very compelling to see where they take this. They are going to throw into another gear this whole franchise, and they need this superstar at the helm to lead it.
It is going to be so much fun to watch this Jazz team evolve as this upcoming season takes place. All right, gentlemen, we still have a lot to discuss. Free agency is underway. There's been a lot of movement. The Atlanta Hawks are joining the party. Is the Hawks' nest full? What will they do to help Trae Young? We'll be right back. Welcome back to Game Time. Bogdan Bogdanović signs an offer sheet with the Atlanta Hawks, reportedly 4 years, $72 million contract. The Atlanta Hawks making some serious moves, trying to get Bogdanović from the Sacramento Kings. Are the Hawks getting ready to soar? These are the reported free agent additions. Rondo, 2-year, $15 million. Chris Dunn and Gallinari for 3 years and $61.5 million. This is very interesting because they're spending some money, guys, and the Hawks trying to help their young all-star Trae Young find some success. Tom, what do you think about these additions?
They're right on time. You look at the Hawks roster, 6 players in double figures last year, all 24 and under. Jabari Parker, the oldest of the group. Of course, it's all about Trae Young and how they complement around his brilliance. You bring in players like Rondo, Gallinari. If they can keep Bogdanović, it's a great addition. The whole slate of veteran talent that's added just helps this young core now get more than those 20 wins, right? Can they more than double those 20 wins? Can they get into the playoff hunt and make some noise? It's time to add veterans with that cap space. None of them are bad contracts. The real question is whether they're going to be able to keep Bogdanović, because I don't know why Sacramento wouldn't match that deal.
That's a very interesting point. We have to always keep that in mind, that it is an offer sheet. It is not an actual deal. As you mentioned, Sacramento does have the opportunity to match that and retain Bogdanović. Steve Smith, what do you think? The Hawks, they're trying to make moves, power moves.
Yeah, I look at it, a team that's 20 and 47 with a lot of young guys is either the Hawks organization saying we're going for it now, or they're saying some of these young guys, we brought in some competitive guys that go get after defensively for Trae Young. I think it's fantastic. Everything he needs to learn about the point guard position, it definitely be a sponge with Rondo. You're talking about defense, you're talking about leadership. And we all know he's a competitor, but I look at the Cam Reddishes, DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Huerter, and all those young guys at the wing. when you start talking about Bogdanovich and some of these other guys, there's not a lot of room. So they're saying right now by December 1st, they're going to have a lot of competition, and they're going to see how it shakes out. And when you have competition, it usually brings this fire and this competitiveness. You usually win games. Hope this all works out for the Hawks.
That's a really good point. And Tom, speaking of Rondo, what do you think his experiences with the Lakers this past season have brought to him in terms of being that veteran, that mentor, that non-starting point guard for a team?
Well, it's a different challenge this time around, going to Atlanta and truly mentoring a young player versus being a complimentary star amongst stars. Totally different. Look, Rajon Rondo is looking to transition his career, sunset his career after this next run here. Currently wants to coach. He's a really, really cerebral player and has been a good pro recently. Throughout all of his career with one exception in Dallas. So I think him in the mix, in the backcourt, if he's aligned with the coaching staff, and is just all value add for Trae Young.
It's going to be interesting. I cannot wait to see what happens. As you guys know, the season is just around the corner. We have so much more to get into on this free agency fever edition of Game Time. Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets, the new gold standard, if you will. We saw the explosiveness of his offensive game in the bubble. We'll be back. The beat writer for the Denver Nuggets, working for the Denver Post. Mike, we appreciate your time. I know you've been exceptionally busy right here these last few days. Let's get right into it. Free agency has been on fire the last several days, but for the Denver Nuggets, they lost a key part of their puzzle in Jeremy Grant. Can you give us the latest on his situation?
Yeah, there's no other way to say it. The Denver Nuggets were blindsided by what happened Friday night when Jeremy Grant decided to leave Denver for Detroit. 3-year, $60 million deal. What's crazy is that the Nuggets, I'm told, was offered the Nuggets offered Jeremy Grant the exact same contract, same amount of money, same amount of length, and yet Jeremy Grant opted to go to Detroit. This shook the Nuggets. They were not prepared for this. But to their credit, they moved quickly. Friday night, they reached a deal with JaMychal Green, free agent forward who spent the last 2 seasons with the Los Angeles Clippers. And actually, the Denver Nuggets ousted JaMychal Green in the postseason. And then a day later, they signed Paul Millsap for 1 year, $10 million. So they quickly moved to replace Jeremy Grant, even if it's not a seamless fit. Because of all the things that Jeremy Grant did, the defensive versatility, but with what they were faced with, the Nuggets absolutely did what they could.
And they continue to try to fill out their roster in this free agency period. They went to an international player in Campazzo. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, this is a 29-year-old point guard who's played with Real Madrid since 2014, was actually teammates with Luka Doncic there. He's only 5'11", but he is one of the best passing point guards in Europe. And the Nuggets have been on him for a long time. And even though he's only 5'11", they view him as a guy who can play alongside Monte Morris or Jamal Murray, who can play in that backcourt because he's a sort of plays bigger than he actually is on defense, and he's just a wizard on offense. So I think that the Nuggets really enjoy thinking about pairing him with Nikola Jokic, obviously the best passing big man in the NBA, and seeing what kind of magic they can create. And this is classic Denver Nuggets. That they look overseas, they find value where there is, where there's value to be found, and they take advantage of it. So I think Nuggets fans are going to be thrilled to see what this guy can do.
Sounds exciting. You mentioned some magic. We saw the Denver Nuggets. They sort of exploded inside the bubble for the fans who were not watching the Nuggets during the regular season. We saw Michael Porter Jr. really come and show up on the stage. What are your expectations for him this season?
What's funny is that so much more is going to be asked of Michael Porter Jr. as a result of the Jeremy Grant decision. Michael Porter Jr. will, in all likelihood, be in the starting lineup. They are going to count on him to obviously knock down his threes, crash the glass. He's an elite rebounder. But really where the spotlight is going to be is on the defensive end for Michael Porter Jr. He grew leaps and bounds throughout the postseason, basically because he was being targeted on defense, and he knew he had to lock in on that end. So it's going to be fascinating to see kind of that push-pull and the trust that he can gain with Nuggets coach Michael Malone, who has essentially said, if you don't play defense, you're not going to be on the court. So the onus is on Michael Porter Jr. to get better in a hurry on that end, because we all know what he can do on the offensive end.
We saw the Nuggets explode. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, they didn't get as far as they would like, but we know they've got a great nucleus in Jamal Murray and Jokic. What are you expecting for them to do? Can they continue that run and sustain improvement?
Yeah, I mean, they've improved every single year under Nuggets coach Michael Malone. It's kind of unbelievable. Their win total has gone up every single year. 3 years ago, it was game 82 they lost, or that was 2 years ago. Then last season they lost in the second round in a heartbreaker at home to Portland. This past year they get all the way to the Western Conference Finals. This is a team whose confidence is growing, whose confidence is budding, and it completely aligns with the trajectory of their two stars, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I don't think there was any question that Nikola Jokic, who finished fourth in MVP voting last season, was already a superstar. But what we saw from Jamal Murray and taking that leap and becoming more consistent, taking that onus and responsibility and putting the team on his shoulders, multiple 50-point games in that series against Utah, his confidence is just exploding. And the Nuggets, everyone chided them last season when they gave Jamal Murray a max contract extension that'll kick in beginning this season. I don't think anybody is looking at that contract sideways anymore. They very much believe that Jamal Murray is the player that they paid him to be.
I think you're right, Mike, and that was so much fun to watch them when they had all those successes in the playoffs. Mike, we appreciate your time, and here's to hoping you get some sleep sometime soon.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Don't forget to tune in to see Game Time Monday, 11 p.m. Eastern, right here on NBA TV for all free agency news and updates. Game Time, Monday night, 11 p.m. Eastern. Welcome back to Game Time. Marc Gasol going to the Los Angeles Lakers, as it has been reported. It'll be his third team for the three-time All-Star. And, of course, this will be a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. And it would be the second time Marc Gasol played for a team that his older brother has also played for. All right, Tom Penn, your thoughts on what this does for the Lakers?
I think last time the Lakers got a Gasol, it worked out pretty well. So I would expect nothing less here. Marc Gasol got a lot of life left in him. To go from JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard to Gasol and his ability to step out, shoot the ball, plus he's one of the smartest, most cerebral players and an all-around great human being. I've known him since he was 12 years old when we drafted Powell in Memphis, and Mark used to hold my daughter when my wife went to the restroom in the family room. Goes way back.
Wow. Thank you so much for that visual, Tom. All right, Steve Smith, your thoughts.
Well, I'll add everything that Tom says, and I think also, like, you add his passing ability. We know his shooting. I mean, I think he's a great fit. They lose some athleticism, but that's why they acquired Montrezl Harrell. But you start talking about pass, cut, catch, and the skillful things the big guy can do. This is going to be a great fit for the Los Angeles Lakers.
All right, speaking of JaVale McGee, at the buzzer, let's check out what exactly is going on around the NBA. Yep, it happened. JaVale McGee has now he's going to the Cavaliers. They acquire him from the Lakers. We talked a little bit about how that changes the Lakers. Well, good news for the Cavs. Reported free agent signings. Look at this. Austin Rivers going to New York. Bazemore back to Golden State. Boucher on the move. Hernan Gomez also. And Baines with the Raptors. You can see people are trying to make things happen, guys. Free agency is underway. Teams are trying to get to the playoffs or get to the championship. I cannot wait to see how this all unfolds and evolves as we